Hello, everyone, and welcome to a virtual presentation about Volta Revival Foundation. Our slogan at Volta Revival Foundation is Together We Make a Difference. But it's not just a catchphrase, we really try to live out this philosophy because we believe that if we want to make lasting positive impact in the world, then the whole community must be integral in the planning, creating, and implementing of all our projects. The pictures on this slide exhibit some of those projects. The first photo is with most of our currently sponsored students who are all survivors of forced labor slavery. The other picture depicting two girls at a water tank shows a pure water tank that we donated and constructed at an island school called Kewuno. And the third photo is of a distribution of bicycles we made to 50 students living very far from their schools in the district of Ada. Volta Revival Foundation works in Ghana, West Africa, and began in January 2017. Our headquarters is located in Ada, Ghana, and is positioned between the Gulf of Guinea and the Volta River. We support communities living along the Volta River, and we believe in a revival of the social, developmental, and economic opportunities of those communities. We have a few prominent goals, which are to provide and uphold human rights, educational opportunity, economic independence, and environmental sustainability. Our logo is the Sankofa symbol made into an R and surrounded with many Adinkra symbols. All these symbols have a rich and long history, but Sankofa in particular means don't be afraid to go back to where you came from, and depicts a mythical bird arching its neck from it to its back for an egg. This is a very important symbol for us because we at Volta Revival Foundation believe that we must learn from the past in order to move forward. From the beginning of Volta's creation, when Meshach Akli, my wonderful husband, and I met, we wanted to create an organization which has a different philosophy and style than we have seen before. In particular, Meshach grew up seeing Western-powered NGOs come into local communities and run very inefficient projects while ignoring the sound advice of the local people who have more knowledge about their situation than those coming in. With that background, we decided that our foundation must be made from the idea that we are not the leaders, the community is, but we are great initiators. From there, we decided to create VRF as if it were a bridge between the communities we work with and the primarily Western structures and ways of doing things in NGOs. This means that we work directly with communities and community members to listen to their needs, engage with them about solutions, organize projects to achieve those solutions, and then work closely with the community to implement the projects and ultimately empower the community members. VRF is most active during the implementation phase when we work to gather funding, create documents, provide a structure for the project, as well as collect data and continue monitoring. This is why we call ourselves a community support organization. Volta Revival Foundation in action is efficient, organized, and exhaustive. We prefer to leave no loose ends untied. All our projects achieve one or more of the Sustainable Development Goals set out by the UN, and we use a community participation approach from start to finish. For every project, we engage in research, collaboration with all partners, advocacy when needed, direct action, and data collection along with follow-up and monitoring for at least 5 years after implementation. In practical terms, it means that we prepare the proper paperwork, inform the proper authorities, and go through official channels to complete all our projects. Then, once the projects are completed, we create reviews and continue our monitoring and data collection. One example of how using structures has helped our communities is during our bicycle distribution to students living far from their schools. This was in March 2019, and we were running a bicycle workshop to train the students on proper bicycle care and safe riding techniques with our partner organization when we discovered that one student was missing from the training after doing a roll call. The student's name is Kwame. Once we knew that he had not come for training, we called the school to inquire and learned that Kwame was sent home that same day for failure to pay his school fees, which is why he also did not come to our program, where he was supposed to receive a bicycle to convey him to school every day. So a few staff members took a trip to the school, and while speaking with the principal, we discovered that Kwame was recently put into school, was advancing quickly because he's very bright, and that Kwame was recently taken out of forced labor slavery on the Volta Lake, where he was used as a fishing boy for many years. This explained his advanced age and lower level in school. The principal then informed us there were 12 other students just like Kwame, who were used as slaves until recently. That is when the community need to end child slavery became very apparent to our organization. And since then, we have launched our Traffic to School project, which I will speak on more a little later in this presentation. Well, this is just one story about how VRF engages with the community and structures of our projects in order to best understand how to serve those most in need. Okay, a little bit about our structure as an organization. Volta Revival is registered both in Ghana and the USA. This means that we are a registered 501c3 tax-deductible nonprofit. It means that you can get a tax write-off for donating to our organization under US law, as well as Ghanaian law. And our main US office is in Bend, Oregon. Volta Revival's ultimate authority is our board of directors, which is comprised of 9 professionals from diverse fields. The board has authority over the budget, the projects that are approved, and our administrative procedures, as well as other important aspects of the organization. Based on our roots, Volta Revival has 2 presidents, one from Ghana and the other being from the USA, which is myself. The presidents are tasked with overseeing all the movement of the organization to ensure that Volta Revival is always moving forward on both sides of the world. In both the USA and Ghana, there is a general manager and an administrative manager. Both positions are used to oversee and conduct the daily activities of Volta Revival on the ground and to communicate frequently with the presidents as well as work together on all projects. Below the managers, we have all the people who do the field work for Volta Revival. Our accountant, fieldwork research assistant, tech personnel, volunteer staff, volunteer house staff, driver, secretary, and of course our wonderful volunteers. On a daily basis, Volta Revival is decentralized. This means that those in higher positions empower those on the ground to make certain unconsequential decisions without having to consult their superior before taking action, but must report all their actions to the superior. This allows our team on the ground in Ghana to make culturally appropriate decisions at the time, and so that we are not constantly having to check back in with one another about making good, healthy decisions for ourselves and our communities. Okay, a little about our projects. Our yearly projects do change depending on community need, but the following are our permanent projects, and they include Traffic to School, an anti-child trafficking project, Water is Life, a pure water provisions project, our human rights advocacy, which gives a voice to communities in need of participating in their own development, disaster relief aid, which has come into play a lot during the current COVID crisis, and our environmental campaign, which includes protecting all environmental resources. I did reference Traffic to School earlier in this presentation concerning how we started the project, which was after we met Kwame during our bicycle distribution. But Traffic to School is essentially born out of a endemic problem to the area and in many parts of the world. As we know, slavery is one of the largest industries in the world today. And labor slavery is very common in Ghana and especially in communities living along the Volta River and lake. Many young children and especially young boys are preyed upon by people looking to traffic them and sell them to masters who will be their boat masters for the years that they live in captivity. Oftentimes, traffickers lie to local parents and tell them that they're going to take care of their children, tell them they're going to send them to school. And many times, these families are in situations where they feel like that could be a better situation for their children than they could provide to them. So, there's a lot to deal with concerning this issue. One of our primary projects is actual child interventions. So when we learn about a case where a child is currently in captivity, we find the best way to free them of that slavery. This could mean they are in a forced cattle herding position, so they're being used as a shepherd, and they're in a contract for, let's say, 3 to 5 years, and then the owner of the cattle herd will give their family one small calf in reward for their contract. We currently have a student that we're working with to intervene in his situation and bring him out of that forced labor. And so we do that in many ways. Sometimes we have to pay off the contracts. Many times we have to work with the families as well as the traffickers. And it's a very tricky and sensitive issue. And therefore, we're really grateful to our staff who are comprised of social workers, psychologists, teachers, and creative folks who can really communicate in firstly the local languages, but also in a way that is very conveys a lot to the families and helps them to understand what's really going on. So once we get our children out, once we intervene and we take them out of slavery, then we have a sponsorship program where we partner with international folks a lot of times, but also people from the continent, to sponsor the education, well-being, and health of one student. The cost for this is $45 a month to provide for this student, and we have the goal of providing for our students up even beyond secondary education into technical school or university, depending on the student's skills. Currently, we have 20 students who are being sponsored and are currently attending the best school in the district, and happy to state that they are all doing very well. And we are able to support them during this time of COVID and continuously encouraging them to be reading, writing, and growing in their academic understanding. Our third aspect to this project is our community education. Now, we're still waiting on some funding for this project, but we go into communities and we speak to the leadership, we speak to individual families, we hold workshops and stakeholders workshops to convey to communities what they're doing, in fact, is slavery. What they're engaging in is looked at by the rest of the world as extremely corrosive, and the children that they send into this type of slavery are essentially doomed into potentially a worse poverty than their parents are even experiencing. And so we have a vested interest in breaking that cycle together with the communities. And that is our goal, to end forced labor slavery as well as other forms of slavery in our district as well as in Ghana and beyond. Volta Revival Foundation's Water is Life campaign provides clean water solutions to schools and communities who currently depend on polluted or contaminated water sources. So a lot of these communities are either island communities, riverside communities, or communities that rely on dammed water sources or inlets, streams, or other, let's say, natural sources of water, which are unfortunately contaminated with E. coli, fecal matter, harmful algae, and many other contaminants, which cause higher rates of infant mortality, dysentery, disease, especially diarrhea, and a lot of other associated health risks. So in these communities, we partner with LifeStraw, who's come alongside us to donate the water filters which we use to donate to the communities. So LifeStraw and Volta Revival work together. For example, we currently have a project we're working on starting in 2021 to provide pure water to 6 communities, 4 island communities and 2 inland communities. So through all of our pure water distribution programming, we train the communities on how to use the filters, when they will be finished, so how to replace the filters and who to contact, health risks of drinking contaminated water, especially for children. And we also use the training process to talk about child trafficking, to talk about child health and nutrition, to talk about how education is really important when coupled with health also. And we also use the project to do continuous monitoring in each of the communities. So currently we've distributed water, pure water, to 2 separate communities to most of the families. So the water filters displayed in the pictures here are the family filters, but LifeStraw will also donate community-sized filters to us. And with the monitoring of each of these communities, we can also track child attendance at school and also be able to see if children are truant or somehow missing from school and be able to track what happened to those children and potentially stop trafficking of those children from those communities into forced labor. So we're really excited about this project, especially as a pure water need is really, really common in our area along the river, and that the river itself is very contaminated. So we're super excited to be moving forward with LifeStraw on this project. Human rights advocacy. There is so much to say about this topic. And Volta Revival is open to community partners for human rights advocacy. So what that means is when communities come to us with their concerns, we often attend stakeholders meetings or visit with the community association that is taking on the subject, and we collaborate with them about how to amplify their voice, how to create strategies to take more responsibility for their own development. So, for example, in one situation, we have a community which is at risk of forced displacement by 2 multilateral corporations. And we work with them to create strategies to get through to the companies about what it is that the community wants and how best that the companies could work with the communities in order to do development. So we have effectively stopped a few developments from going through because they had no plan for what to do with the community people who are living on the island or on the land that they want to take over. And so we've forced the corporations as well as some local governments to take action to make plans around how to deal with resettlement so that we're not just displacing people and we're actually creating positive change for the entire area, not just the corporations who will benefit from their developments. And so we do a lot of different things, but this is an umbrella for us to be able to advocate against the injustices that occur in society and to make sure that there are checks and balances in that process. Disaster relief aid is one of our newer permanent projects, which we have seen a real need for, especially given this current COVID pandemic. So a lot of things have happened after the COVID pandemic, including a lot of increase in prices for normal staples, food staples. And so we support the communities that are in need with hand sanitizer, gloves, masks, as well as certain communities with food items and health items such as soap. So we also respond in times of disaster and do our best to support our communities as their needs arise in these kind of emergency situations. So our environmental campaigns have a lot to do with safeguarding the environmental resources in Ada, but also along the river as well. And we like to engage the youth for these projects, especially for the beach and riverside cleanups, the turtle monitoring, and safeguarding. We have 3 different species of turtles who lay their eggs and nest on our ocean shores in Ada. And we also want to do more tree planting and are hoping that in the next year we'll be able to initiate more of that. Um, we have a vested interest in keeping Ada healthy, especially as an area which is below sea level and at risk of sea rising and climate change. So we really work with communities to raise awareness, to try to teach people about single-use plastics and how they affect our environment, and to safeguard animals, plants, and ultimately our health as a human species together. So you might be asking, Monique, how do you guys make this work financially since you clearly don't have big, massive corporate sponsors? And I will tell you, it is a lot of heart and a lot of people who have come alongside us and said, we believe in your grassroots mission to really create positive change. And as a result, we have done a lot with a very, very little. You can go back on some of our blog posts to see some of our other projects, but honestly, the amount of impact we've had and the reaction we've gotten from the community is tremendous, and we're so grateful. 3 major ways that people can support us in our financial model is primarily, which I already spoke about, sponsoring a child survivor of slavery, which is $45 a month and is one of the best ways to create a real difference in the world, because we don't just help our students get a good education. We mentor them, we help them with their trauma, we engage them in creative workshops, we help them with their health and make sure that they're all healthy and have everything they need. And our goal is that our students will grow up to be the kind of people in society who can come back to their communities, help to develop, and also help other children who were just like them. We not only want to stop the cycle of slavery, but we want to stop it for 10 more and 10 more and 10 more students as our students grow up and are able to make those kinds of impacts in their own home communities. Another way you can really help us is by becoming a founder. A founder is a philanthropist who believes in our vision and wants to help us do that work. So for $50 a month, a founder employs one of our staff members. That means that for $50 a month, we can actually have an extra pair of hands to do the work that we so desperately need to be done. And you are essentially sponsoring their employment to do the work and also support their own families, which is a tremendous thing and also makes innumerable benefits to the society at large. When we have more hands to do the work, we are just a much more effective organization. And at the moment, we don't have the capacity to pay everyone on our team. And that's limiting our ability to employ more people to do the work that we also need to be done, that maybe we don't have the skill for or we don't have the passion for. And allowing local people who are qualified, skilled to do that work. The last way to do it and support our organization is to become a partner. And this is all up to businesses and corporations who have the power to pledge an annual donation or a monthly donation to our organization, potentially to one of our projects or just to our organization in general. And really, it's these kinds of sponsorships, founderships, and partnerships that power Volta Revival Foundation. And we get to our volunteer program. We love our volunteers, we really do. We have a great time, and I know that a lot of people are not volunteering right now due to the travel restrictions of COVID, but we do have some online opportunities, so if you're interested in that, don't hesitate to email us. But our on the ground opportunities have included working with people with disabilities to advocate for their voice on radio, working with local radio, working in schools, helping to build pure water tanks, helping to build wind energy projects, safeguarding the lives of turtles on our beaches, sports camps, and so much more. It really depends on your interests, your skill set, and we want to hear from you and we want to engage that. Our program is a little bit different because for every international volunteer that we have, we pair you with a local volunteer who will be your guide for language, for culture, for getting around Ada, and also become hopefully one of your great friends. And they'll work with you on your project. So we also run our volunteer house, which is where all of our volunteers stay while they're living in Ada. And it's a really great environment to meet a lot of people from all around the world, and it's fully staffed, very safe, and you have access to some nice bicycles. So we love our volunteers and we love our volunteer program. And if you're interested, please send us an email. We'd love to hear from you. Speaking of hearing from you, here's how you can get a hold of us. Volta Revival's email is info@voltarevival.org. You can also contact me personally at my number 541-419-4363, or if you're in Ghana or on the continent of Africa, you can contact our Ghana office. We're also on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and you can find us at Volta Revival Foundation. We would love to hear from you and have you follow us. You can send donations. Let's say you have a donation of a computer that you want to help us with our computer lab or other projects that we're working on. Right now, we're currently trying to get donations for desktops and laptops. So if you or anyone you know has some of those resources, we would love to hear from you. And if you would like to donate to our organization, we are available on PayPal at paypal.me/VoltaRevival. Thank you so much for tuning into this virtual presentation, and we'd love to hear from you and engage with you more. Have a wonderful day and take care of yourselves out there. Blessings.